So Ross for this week had me watch John Carpenter's Vampires from 1998, starring James Woods, Daniel Baldwin, Cheryl Lee, and Thomas Ian Griffith. Now, Thomas Ian Griffith, for those of you who don't know, played Terry from The Karate Kid 3 and Cobra Kai. Now, Terry from Karate Kid 3 and Cobra Kai is a total psychopath, and I love it. So I wish they gave this man more screen time as the main bad guy because he's awesome. He's so over-the-top cheesy, and that's basically what makes this movie kind of enjoyable. Because it's not a good movie, especially by John Carpenter standards. But you get James Woods just being a jerk the whole movie, but it's kind of hilarious because it's that James Woods brand of being a jerk that it's like, wow, you don't say that in civilized conversation, but for some reason, it's kind of funny. Which ends up like a lot of the main guy that kind of sees him being a jerk is the new priest that comes along with him. Now, I will say some things in this movie definitely don't hold up. They're gay jokes or whatever. There's a lot of stuff that you could do in the 90s but can't do anymore. But I'm not going to talk about that too much. So the general gist of this story is James Woods is the head of a vampire team. You find out that both of his parents were bit by vampires. He had to kill them both. And he was basically raised by the church to be the best hunter ever. Or slayer, as they call him. Daniel Baldwin is his right-hand man. And the movie starts with their crew going into a vampire nest and basically trying to find the quote-unquote master vampire there. Now, that is one thing. They never really explain why some vampires are masters, why some aren't. But, whatever. You're not showing up to this movie for the lore, really, so that's fine. They go in, they take out the lower vampires there, and then they go back to this motel to have a party with a bunch of sex workers. Now, at this party, you see a guy stroll up in a black robe, Terry from Karate Kid 3, and he's looking like the biggest goth My Chemical Romance knockoff dude ever, and it's so, again, it's over the top, it's cheesy, but it's pretty fun. He shows up and he bites the sex worker that was going back to James Woods' room and turns her into a vampire. Now, they say the changing takes like 5 days or so, but she gets bit and he goes into the party and just starts massacring everyone. Like the first dude that tries to step up to him, he just shoves his arm through his gut and then slices up through his head and basically bisects the dude. Oh, it was... Again, the effects by John Carpenter standards aren't good, but they're cheesy enough that it kept me entertained. Like, that's basically the gist of this movie. It's cheesy enough to keep me entertained. So he just starts killing everyone, and James Woods, Daniel Baldwin, and the sex worker end up escaping. Now, James Woods plans on using Cheryl Lee, the sex worker, as a psychic link to the original vampire that attacked the party. So you find out that Terry from Karate Kid is the original vampire, and when a vampire bites someone, you get a psychic link to the master. So they want to use the psychic link to essentially track him and try to stop him from whatever he's doing. So as you go on, so the entire team's dead. It's just Daniel Baldwin doing his best Alec Baldwin impression. Like, I swear, he somehow looked into the future, watched The Departed, and was like, hey, I think I'm going to try to do this version of my better acting brother, anyway. And James Woods is just being James Woods, a jerk. And they basically they get a new priest, but the cardinal, because they work for the Vatican, they got to go to a church, and the cardinal tells him that he has to report back and basically build a new team. And James Woods is like, nah, we don't have time for that. And the cardinal's like, you got to follow orders. And James Woods like, nope. So they go off with the new priest, and James Woods, total jerk to the priest at first, because he's a newbie, and basically, James Woods knows he's hiding something, so he ends up cutting him up to get information from him. So this is where we find out that the vampire that attacked the party was the original vampire. He used to be a cardinal, but they believed he got possessed in like the 1300s, and they tried to do an exorcism that is like a forbidden form of the exorcism, and it ended up turning him into a vampire. Now, James Wood shows this priest the map, and it shows that they're doing a search pattern of different attacks to try and find something. And we eventually find out that he wants to find the cross from the original exorcism that turned him into a vampire, so that he can complete the ceremony and get rid of his weakness to the sunlight. So, bad news for people, because you find out that master vampires are basically unstoppable at night. So you can only kill them during the daytime. The sun is like their main weakness, which you get to see some of the vampires turn to crisps when they get shown to the sunlight, and it's like they put a bunch of flares in like an obvious dummy, and it just kind of looks hilarious. But you're going through this movie, and they basically go in as like a 3-team wrecking crew of the new priest, James Woods, and Daniel Baldwin, who was bitten by the sex worker, so he's hiding the fact that he's been bitten, which doesn't really play in the story that much. Like, it serves as a kind of conflict between him and James Woods, because James Woods knows he's hiding something, and he's just like, nope, I'm not hiding something, and they have like a short fight, but not really. And then at the end of the movie, he tells James Woods, and he's like, you're a vampire, and he's like, yep. He's like, I'll give you 2 days head start, but I'm going to find you and kill you. And he's like, this sounds fair to me. All right, see you later. That's how that plays out. Now, the thing that would have made this movie better is if they got the original casting for Daniel Baldwin's part, which was apparently they wanted Bruce Campbell. Now, for those who don't know, I hope you know who Bruce Campbell is, but he is Ash from Evil Dead. If you got Ash in that role, oh my god, this movie would have been an instant classic. You get Terry from Karate Kid 3 hamming it up as the villain who doesn't get enough time, but having Ash as like the right-hand man, wisecracking dude who's kind of a badass, that would have been amazing. You would have had the ultimate, like, no, this movie's not really good, but oh my god, it's so damn entertaining. Now, the climax of the movie is they track down the original vampire, and he resurrected 7 master vampires, which again, I don't know what distinguishes a master from a lower vampire, but you find that they basically go in and have this fight in a jail, and like they're trying to use tactics to kill these master vampires, and you get a decent amount of the fight, but eventually they get caught, and you find out that the cardinal that was in charge of James Woods' team was betraying them. So the priest, James Woods, and get captured, and the cardinal is going to finish the ceremony in return for being turned into a vampire. But then the priest manages to kill the cardinal, and Baldwin shows up and basically runs over some of the vampires, and they have this final bout that ends up with Terry from Karate Kid getting killed, and, you know, la-di-da, that's the end of the story. Now, some of the things that really work in this movie are just how cheesy it is. Like, people, like, when you look at the performances outside of Daniel Baldwin, they seem to know what movie they're in. Like, this is not high art by any means. It's very cheesy, very over the top, and if I had to describe the tone, it's almost like you mixed Van Helsing with Ghost Rider and throw in like a comedic western, and that's what you end up getting. And my biggest complaint, besides Bruce Campbell not getting the role that they wanted Bruce Campbell for, is throughout this whole movie, there's like one song that plays on like the long desert shots, and it sounds like a song that you're going to hear in a Dodge Ram commercial. Overall, I did enjoy the movie. This is definitely one of the ones I've enjoyed more that Ross has given me. It's not a good movie by any stretch of the words, but James Woods has like this natural charisma despite being such a jerk, that his line delivery, like every time he calls the priest Padre, I'm like, oh, like he seems like a cool dude, even though I know he's very much not known as a cool dude. And a lot of the jokes don't age well, but some of the banter between James Woods and the priest is just hilarious. I do recommend, like, this movie's on Netflix, and I recommend giving it a watch if you like cheesier movies. But it's definitely not high art. I think Daniel Baldwin trying to do an impression of his brother kind of drags it down a bit. I would consider him like the lower point of the movie. There's a long stretch where you spend with him and and Cheryl Lee just in a hotel room, and they're just talking. I'm like, this is extremely boring. Can we get James Woods back here, please? I also wish they gave Terry from Karate Kid 3 more screen time, because him just hamming it up as a vampire king, like, I want to make him more sadistic. Like, I want to spend time with him. Like, he kidnaps a priest at one point. I want to see him and the priest interact more. I feel like the amount of intensity and energy he would bring to that type of scene would have made this, like, kind of amazing. So I wish they just upped the ham a little bit more, because the effects are not good but entertaining, and James Woods, again, very, very good. But overall, this movie, it's a meh movie with one major actor bringing it down, but the rest of the cast knowing what's up and just kind of basically keeping it afloat with some entertaining scenes. So that's my review on Vampires from John Carpenter. Certainly not one of the director's best movies. But, so next week I am going to have Ross watch another anime, of course. I will do, that video will come out on probably Tuesday, where I explain what I'm making Ross watch. I think he's actually going to like it a lot. So, again, give us a like, give us a subscribe, hit that notification button to let you know when all the videos pop up. Thanks for hanging out with us, so I'll see you next time.